So Lex, you run a hedge fund. What have the last 17 days been like? How is what's going on in America affecting the hedge fund world here in Europe?
Sure. I mean, it's kind of strange because suddenly we have to become experts in what's happening in the US Congress, what's happening in the Senate. It's not what we usually do. Every morning when we come in, we look at the US newspapers, see what's going on. So suddenly, all eyes on what's happening in American politics.
And all eyes firmly fixed on things like this. This is a US government 30-year bond, isn't it?
Exactly. So the issue is that interest rates in the US are going up anyway. So if you look here, the 30-year rate in April was 2.8%, and it's gone up to about 3.8% already. What worries me is that, being abroad, not being in the US, that we're so dependent on the decisions of US politicians. So we are like a pawn in the political process. And if you're Japan or if you're China and you're lending so much money to the US, and this is the way it's being treated, then that is very worrying.
So how is all this, what's going on in America, affecting your portfolio?
Well, global markets are, like a lot of them, are trading at all-time highs or near all-time highs. But the underlying issue remains. The US is borrowing too much money, the Fed is flooding the system with cheap money, and debt around the world is just too high. And I think that when rates go up, if this political process will lead to higher rates, then it will be very hard for global markets to take this.
How high do you think something like this can go before we really see a tipping point for America?
Well, I think the issue is not how high it can go. The issue is that how long can it be controlled? And at the moment the Fed is controlling interest rates, short-term, long-term, by just buying and buying them. But there's a point where foreign investors who own 50% of the treasury market are going to say enough is enough.
So as a market participant, what's your message to Washington?
I would say you're playing with fire. US treasuries are the safest instrument in the world. If that stops being the case, then it's going to be very difficult to finance the US deficit, and then you will see what happens.
And what will happen?
I think it's the trust in the US will totally go away, and the growth of debt in the US is still 4, 5, 6%. So it's an unsustainable situation. Growth is being financed by debt, and it's not real growth. So it's like a mirage.